The topic I'm going to discuss today is not necessarily new, but there is a specific angle that I really cannot say that I have explored, so I wish to revisit it. And in a sense, the reason I need to do that is because in recent times I have obtained experiences that tie in to it, and it seems to be a topic that simply will not let me go because of how my, I guess, circumstances panned out as an adult. The purpose for me sharing this is more to express myself, put it out here, and maybe somebody out there, I just want one person to not necessarily agree or disagree with what I'm saying, but at the very least understand. Because sometimes I feel like every time I discuss this, I don't feel understood, and to a certain extent, I cannot help but wonder if I just do not know how to express myself in this matter, or if it's just people fixated on what they're used to seeing in the world that they have experienced, that they put up a boundary when it comes to hearing me out. Or maybe it's because the person they know me to be, maybe they themselves were like me when they were my age, but they decided to allow for things to change. They changed themselves in an effort to, I guess, pave a path for themselves. Whereas I'm saying that I'm not doing that. Let's get started, shall we? And I think that will help with what I wish to express today. So, it's no secret that I have never truly known what I want to be. And when I say what I want to be, I hate saying it like this, but for the sake of simplicity, I guess it's the career choice that I'm supposed to elect and rot my life away performing for 30, 40 years, retire, and then call it a life, I guess. I have been an individual of many interests, and on top of that, I think that what condemned me to have difficulties in this area is that when I was a kid, I never ever had a visible talent. For instance, my brother, we knew that he was gonna fly. Like, as long as he feels the sensation of flight, he's happy. You could have picked up that infant, thrown him overboard, thrown him over a window, through the air, whatever, and he would have been happy even if he plummeted to the ground because he got to fly. I was an individual with multiple interests, but none of those interests were any that I could really commit to. For example, these are the lists of careers I ever expressed interest, no matter how remote it was: flight attendant, judge, police woman, actress, teacher. Those were the five primary things that I can say I felt a degree of seriousness toward, a degree of inclination toward. However, because of that, because I never had a visible talent, I find that when I express myself as someone who is unsure but also not deciding once and for all, people really, really, really try to do the deciding for me. They try to do the choosing for me. And to give an example, here at my current job, which is retail, I'm told you need to be moving up, move up into management. And I'm like, why? For what? I hate people. I hate being here. I don't want to do this much longer than I already do. And that's why I'm trying to get my hours reduced so that I can pursue the things outside of here that I want to see doing better so that maybe I can retire myself from my current lifestyle, my current career, or if I can at least have this supplement me enough to where I can gradually let go of this place, because clearly this place is just no longer good for me. I am no longer good for it. I feel it at the end of every shift, at the beginning of every shift. I cannot even sleep the nights before a shift. That is a sign that my time there is simply up. I have lost my peace in the current place that I'm at. And for me personally, I think it's a balanced responsibility. It is the fault of the company because of the way things are changing, because of the way the culture is changing, and the adaptations that I simply cannot belong to because of my personality. But also, it boils down to me as well. Like, I have been there for 10 years. I have reached the summit of my presence there. Like, there's really no way for me to grow anymore within my role because I have achieved everything within my role. Naturally, that's why people are trying to encourage me to move up. I have what it takes, and it's time for me to move up since I feel stuck. It's natural. But my issue with that is that this is coming from a place of selfishness on their part. And what I'm trying to say is that they are trying to exploit what they think is my potential. But when I try to explain why I disagree with what they're saying and how their definition of me is incorrect, that conversation never goes well for me because they keep finding ways to prove that I am fit and suitable for it because they have the experience of having done things, but no one is validating my feelings. No one is validating my points. When I say I don't want to do something because I cannot handle it, I hate it when people say, we need to work on your confidence. And I'm like, it's not a matter of confidence. The job that you want me to pursue is a job that I have, in a sense, been performing. The only difference is I never had the job title for it, and therefore the fullest extent, the fullest capacity of what that role entails, I don't have that experience. But at least on paper and when it comes to the definition, I do have the experience of the role. Anyway, so hopefully that's starting to make sense and draw out where I'm heading to with this. So just because you have observed me for a little bit and I exhibit certain traits that you consider would be compatible with a certain area of a job, it does not mean I want to do it. Just because I can type fast and I have amazing keyboarding skills doesn't mean that I like to work with computers. It doesn't mean that I want to be sitting my ass down using a stupid ass computer. But when I say that, people are just absolutely shocked to hear me say that. What bothers me about people who try to do the deciding for me is that people like that have tried to make me live a life that I know I don't want. Everybody who has pushed education onto me, I understand what you mean. I understand your intention. Your intention is that you want to protect me from ending up on the street because I don't have credentials or I don't have an education. I don't have just the things that make me marketable and hireable. In other words, fuckable by the job industry. And with me, I'm like, and that's fine. That's fine with me. And it just really, really, really makes me sad that no one ever truly listens to me from start to finish when I describe the life that I want, the lifestyle that I want. Pretty much my life as I live it currently, I really don't want to change much of it. I really do not wish to elevate it in any way. What I wish to do is maintain it, but in a less stressful way. But the recommendations that are being thrown at me is going to increase my stress levels, elevate my stress, the very thing that I'm trying to avoid, like the devil avoids the cross. When I keep hearing advice and recommendations that conflict severely with my values and my goals and the definition of what I want my life to be, that's where I feel disrespected. That's where I feel disregarded. And I am sorry that I've never had a talent that you can see, and therefore you want to throw me into something because you think that I have the talent of handling difficult things. For me, I think the more I do the channel, the more videos I make, the more writing I do, I realize that the answer has been in front of my face the entire time. Ever since I was a kid, all I wanted to do was write and doodle, even if I never had the ability to draw. I just liked how paper smelled. I liked the fascination that I got when I would use a pen and ink would come out. I enjoyed creating things. But as a child, I would have never imagined that this would have been a possible thing, would have been a thing at all. And when I was a teen, I was never ever contemplating recording myself or making a video for anything, but for some reason I could picture myself as an actress on some kind of play, some kind of maybe something as silly as a soap opera, just anything. I don't know what it was that had me inspired back at the time, but I said, I think the reason I like the idea of acting is because I want to escape. I like escapism, but I would like to be an actress of real life matters, real life stories. I just love telling stories all day long. And another way that I can evidence that outside of the channel is as soon as we hire someone new on the squad, I'm immediately telling them the history of the place. Hey, we used to have these benefits, now we don't. We used to sell this, now we don't. We used to have this kind of job, now we don't. Just everything to get the person updated and familiarized with the history of the place. I love discussing history from that perspective. Real life history that I have taken a part of. It's very simple now for me to see that I'm designed to be a storyteller. But just because I wasn't chatty as a kid doesn't mean that I didn't have the capacity to. It's just that I guess when I was a kid, I just did not have the people around me who made me feel like me telling them a story was worthy. Eventually, because of my obsession with wanting to escape instead, that's why I invested a lot of time doing things like video games. And I don't regret that my time was spent that way because I feel like video games did give me some skills like my ability to focus and my ability to think quick. Sometimes I feel like I credit that to video games because there are some games that require for you to have a quick reaction and come up with plans on the fly to be able to beat a level. Given that, another thing that I feel video games helped me with was memorizing things. Video games used to be so simple that if you had a memory of where things like enemies would appear or traps would appear and you could time it right, you could be a very good player. I wish you guys would have known or observed me as a gamer when I was younger. I legit had skills that I think I could have been one of those crazy speedrunners. And it's because games were super simple. Again, it just was. And I invested enough time to be able to get good at it to where, given the simplicity of the AI back then, once you picked up on the pattern, you could be a genius player. And I wish that I could demonstrate that, but now when I go back to playing my old games, I'm like, I cannot believe I used to be good at that. I come nowhere close to beating any of my high scores that I achieved as a kid. But when it comes to my memory, something that has always struck me some type of way is my ability to remember shit when I don't try to remember things, especially things that might have a little bit of meaning, a little bit of importance, like say the date that someone died, the date that someone has a birthday, the day that someone was hired, the day that someone quit. I remember all those fucking things decades after it has happened. And some of this stuff I haven't even journaled about, but still, every time the calendar hits that day, I'm immediately thinking about the person or the incident or whatever. And a lot of people around me tell me I can't remember people's birthdays for shit. And I know that birthdays, honestly, are not supposed to really be a big deal like that. But I'm just saying that for some reason, a little detail like that is something that I can remember. And I can remember a lot of them. A lot of them. You tell it to me once and I'll remember. But if I read like online, unfortunately, you guys who have left me your birthdays before, because I don't see your face and because I don't hear your voice, it's harder for me to remember, I guess. But in real life, in person, that's the kind of thing that makes me be like, maybe I'm fucking designed to be a storyteller, because if I wanted to talk about anybody in my life who I'm remotely interested in or concerned about, I'm like, yeah, so this individual, their full name is this and that, and their birthday is on so and so date. I can do that. And I don't try to hold on to that information at all. I don't really get to repeat that information for it to stick to me, but somehow it does. With that said, this is also the part that maybe people who tend to try to do the deciding for me that I'm describing, maybe this is the thing that gets them. That everything ever that I'm put through, anything ever that I'm shown, or say a class or a job, a game, whatever it is, I end up being pretty good at it. Once I'm able to put in the practice for it, it doesn't take me very long at all to develop a technique. I guess because people observe that I tend to be good at anything that I'm put through, that's why they want to try to exploit whatever my potential is in their minds. That's all I keep hearing. You have potential, you have potential, you have potential. I'm like, and why is it that as an individual with potential, I have to commit to a cause that I'm not interested in? Why is it that my feelings, my regards, my opinions, there is zero regard for that? I resent that. That's the point. But playing video games, using computers, being a student, being a worker, sometimes cooking, but particularly more so imagining or dreaming up new foods or something that I've never tried before, but I think, oh, I think mixing these things together could turn out good. I'm good at that shit. I just am. I cannot tell you how. I don't practice for that. I don't train for that. An individual with no visible talent, people trying to decide on my behalf, since I do not decide or commit to anything. And mostly the best time of my life is when I'm getting to share something, getting to tell a story, whatever. Where am I supposed to go? What is it that I'm supposed to do without going to school, without spending money to get there, and within reach? Like me not having to travel, not having to relocate, anything like that. Where do I belong? I thought I would share it from that perspective. What kind of kid were you? Were you the kind of kid who you already knew what the fuck you were going to be? And whether or not you were able to pursue it, you had an interest that to this day lingers with you. I was never athletic. I was never super, super, super scientifically smart, because math always killed me. But I could be alone in my room and I could make a game out of anything. But my favorite thing that I never got to do as a kid was having supplies for drawing and writing and paper that were wastable, expendable, usable outside of school time. Had I had that, there's no telling what would have happened. But yeah, you guys, I thought that I would share it like that. And I really hope that you share with me what it was like for you to be a younger person, discovering yourself, discovering your interest, and ultimately, whatever career it is that you chose, are you still practicing the career that you started off with? How many times have you changed it? And what was your talent? Was your talent a visible one, or was it an invisible one? And if it was an invisible one, When did it come out? And if it was a visible one, did it actually match your personality? Was it actually something that you liked, something that you loved? Because again, for me, there were some things that I could say I was good at, but it was not something that just filled me with passion, made me feel at home. This is probably one of those videos that it has the potential of becoming one of my most important ones, because I don't always present things from a fresh angle in a way that I think is particularly impactful. I usually may share my thought, give you the superficial overview, maybe give you a point or two that may have some depth. But when it comes to this part of me, I'm never encouraged to really dive into it any further. I kind of test the waters, because as soon as I hear people sounding to me like they're not understanding me or missing the point, or just trying to show me that their way of seeing things is ultimately all that matters because experienced, then I just feel disrespected. Maybe those of us who don't have experience, you could learn from us not having experience, so that you're able to stay present and aware of how the times may be evolving or may not be evolving. And maybe, fucking maybe, if you do that, some people's emotional disorders may actually be addressed. Maybe some people won't feel lonely. Maybe some people won't feel dismissed, disrespected. Absenteeism may not hurt as much. Those things that, if you ever hear a child come to you and say something that you find fucked up, you might find it offensive that a child is not appreciating whatever sacrifices it is that you're performing. Well, actually sit down to find out, to see if the sacrifices that you're performing and your intention is your child's well-being, maybe that's not what your child needs. Like, if their basics are covered, basics for subsistence, if that's covered, then what else are you actually out there sacrificing yourself for? Because sometimes, on that note, I find that you're trying to do things to get your child to favor your vision of what you think they should do, where you think they should be, but you actually have not conversed at all openly with your child. My mom did. And that is why today, presently, I am living the way that I am living, which is, wow, it feels great that I don't feel pressure, but I do feel annoyance that people want to look at me as a failure because I am not allowing for my potential to be exploited. That's what this is about. Well, again, you guys, thank you so much for tuning in. It was nice to let this out, and can't wait to read your responses, because this one's it means a lot to me. And I'm also happy that I'm starting to open up two more things that in the past, sure, I had opened up, but I have opened up in a little bit more private a setting. But now I think the older I get, the more willing I am to just let some things out that keeping to myself just doesn't bring me any joy.